American 11, are you trying to call?
The cockpit is not answering their phone. Our number 1 has been staffed and our 5 has been staffed.
Hey, I'm going to call from Washington. I am in a situation with American 11, a possible hijack.
What's going on, Betty? The aircraft is erratic again. Problem, very erratic. Betty, talk to me. Betty, are you there? Betty? Betty?
The plane just hit
What?
the 737.
Hey, what?
Like the World Trade
Who are you
Center.
talking to?
Oh, God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Hello everyone. Today is September 11th, 2020, and today's video is another serious video. It is the 19th remembrance anniversary of the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon and all the planes that were hijacked on September 11th, 2001. I had just turned 7 years old. I was in second grade, had just started second grade, and to be completely honest, I don't remember anything from that day at all. I kind of remember what my parents told me. My mom was a doctor, so she was working. My dad had been working as well, and I don't remember anything except what they told me, where after the planes hit the towers, everyone at school was watching the news. All the teachers were. They told parents to come and get their kids, and my dad came and got me and my brothers and took us home. That's all I know. I don't remember it at all. So I was curious, since I'm doing this video series for this month. I made a post on my personal Facebook page earlier this evening. It's 11:42 right now, so I'm just going through these comments. This is the first time I'll be reading them. I wanted to hear what other people's stories were, what they remember from that day, where they were, what they were doing, because I have no recollection of it at all. So I wanted to hear from other people what they were going through when the world stopped on that day, and everything kind of changed from then. So these are stories of where were you on September 11th, 2001, and these are my first time reading them, so these are going to be from family members and friends. I'm not going to read their names, but I just kind of want to go through and just hear what other people's stories are. So first one is, me and my partner were flying back from a work meeting from Chicago the night before. We got a call from our sister that morning to see if they were home and to turn on the news. Everyone was numb. We had to go to a birthday party for our friend's twins who had just turned 1 that day. Everyone was numb. Never forget. Wow, they were on a plane that evening. I have quite a few teacher friends, family members and friends, and I see a couple classroom responses here. In my classroom with my students, I really didn't comprehend what had happened at the time. In the hours following, it became even more real. I went to the memorial years later, and it made me realize more where it happened and how many lives were affected. I had never been to New York City until 2017. That was my first time ever going there, and I went and visited the memorial as well. And when you walk up there, there's just a feeling of like, wow, this was real, this really did happen, and over 3,000 people lost their lives, which is crazy. And they have the very nice memorial with all the names and the fountains and where the 2 towers were, and it really just hits you when you go there. Another one, I was at school when we heard the news. TVs were turned on at school as we watched in disbelief. Many tears were shed. I was just telling my class this year about what had happened and where we were that day. So sad. Another teacher, I was teaching at school. I heard it on the radio that was playing in the classroom while the kids were working in class. A friend, I had just dropped off my sons at school and was heading out to my uncle's auto shop to drop off my car. I listened to the radio as the DJ was describing all the events. I walked into the auto shop and saw my family silently sitting there watching the TV as the second plane hit the towers. I burst into tears, and immediately needed to go check on my aunt who lived up the road. I sat with her for the next few hours just watching the TV, sick to my stomach. I will never forget that day, ever. An old coworker of mine, 25 blocks from the World Trade Center, I was working on a children's TV show at Chelsea Piers. Holy smokes. He was in New York. Wow. I can't imagine being in New York that day because obviously the whole United States shut down. Schools were closing. Every single plane around the United States was grounded, and he was in New York City, just right down the road from where this was happening. My neighbor said, "Let's talk." All right, I will call you, and we'll have to have a discussion, because again, I want to hear what people went through, because I don't have any remembrance or recollection of anything. So I really love hearing stories of people and their perspective on everything that went down that day. My cousin, we lived in New Jersey just outside the city. My husband was working in the plaza in the city. He had been in the World Trade Center the day before. I was at the mall getting my son's birthday photos and saw all over the news. It was terrible. There was no communication for most of the day to understand if my husband was safe and all the people that we knew were okay. We had many friends who lost family members and friends that day. I will never forget. Okay, wow. So my old classmate who was in the same grade as me, she has a clear recollection. She says, "In second grade with you, I remember our teacher coming into the classroom, and then another teacher turned on the TV and started crying. She left the classroom and our teacher stayed with us for a little while. Then all the teachers were in the hall talking, and she finally came back in. A few kids in our class asked what was wrong. Not sure what they told us. I do remember seeing a clip of it on the TV in our classroom." Wow, so they were playing the news in the classrooms. My aunt says, "I was on my way to work listening to the radio. I hurried up and called my niece and told her to turn on the TV." And then my cousin says, "That was the moment of where I was when the world stopped turning on that September day." Another old classmate of mine said, "I was 7 years old and sick. My dad took me to the doctor's office. I remember when we walked in, he immediately turned to the TV and said, 'No, not the other tower.' He then called and informed the school where my sister was, and all the students were sent home." So here's my mom's story. Again, she was a doctor, so she said, "I was at work. All the staff heard it on the radio. I still had to work the entire day. It was so hard to concentrate. A plane had to do an immediate landing at a nearby airport. It was a very scary time." Yeah, all the planes were grounded immediately. I believe it was when the first tower hit, all the air traffic control was telling every single plane to land. My cousin says, "I had landed in Vegas the night before around 9 o'clock, checked into the hotel for work, and was up at 5 a.m. watching it live as it happened on the news. I called my husband to watch. I was pregnant with our second son at the time. I absolutely hated being away from my son and husband." My other cousin says, "I was backing out of my driveway to bring our daughter to daycare and get to work. My husband was in Tampa for work. She heard it on the radio that the plane hit the first tower and everyone thought it was a small plane. It was unclear at the beginning. On the way to work, I heard that the second plane hit and then the Pentagon plane. It was awful. We closed the store early. My husband was stuck in Florida. A few of them rented cars and drove home. It was so awful. I watched the news nonstop crying, wondering what kind of world we had just brought our daughter into." My uncle says, "I was at work. My wife called. She was watching the Today Show. She told me a small plane just hit one of the Twin Towers. My first response was Bin Laden. After the other semi-failed attacks, this is what came to me." So apparently there were other attempts before this. I didn't know that either. My uncle said he went home and then the second plane hit. We debated going to get the kids from school. We decided against it. I do remember shortly after the second plane hit, going to town to try to get the mail at the post office, and it was closed. I talked to a guy in the parking lot about how the world had changed at that moment. I filled the car with gas because I figured prices would go up. with oil supplies being affected, I spent the rest of the day and evening watching the TV, never looking away. An old classmate of mine that was a couple years older than me, so she might have a better recollection, she said she was in 4th grade. Another teacher came in and then went outside the classroom and they talked. I remember seeing a clip of it on TV, and then my mom taking me and my sister home from school. We got home and watched the news all day. Wow. So a little variety from different people, cousins, family, teachers, old classmates, and everybody. It's crazy hearing what everyone kind of remembers of that day. It was 19 years ago and people still know exactly where they were on this day, which it just shows how significant of an impact that 9/11 was. I just still can't believe it. I mean, it's changed everything. It's changed the way that we travel. It's changed the way that our privacy and security is, and it's just insane. So I know everyone every year says never forget, and this video, you're watching it today, which is now September 12th, and the unfortunate thing is most people, they just bring it back to September 11th, the one day that it happened, and then we don't talk about it or remember it outside of today. And that's the unfortunate thing. And like I just said, it's I don't know how we can't remember it more than that, because it's changed our lives significantly. Right as soon as the first plane hit that tower, everything changed for forever. So take time out of the day to hug your families, tell your loved ones that you love them, and spend time with them as much as possible, because you never know what's going to happen, whether it's a crazy attack like this, a series of unfortunate events, or health, or anything. You just never know. So thank you for watching. If you want to share your story with me below this, go ahead and comment on the video. I'd love to hear more people's recollection from this day. So in the meantime, please tell your loved ones you love them, take care, and stay safe.